all the time.
That's what CC tells us all the time when Nick and I call each other's performances piss poor. But he's like, come on, guys. Are you buying what Aaron Rodgers had to say, Cris?
No, that's the way NFL locker room. He's the top guy. He should set the tempo on a daily basis. And if he can't say his personal feelings, like, man, these kids, they're in the wrong business, because this is what happens in the NFL. This is the way you want your quarterback. This is what's going on in New England. Tom Brady been doing that for years. It's been happening for Dan Marino. He was legendary. Dan Marino, point at you. Hey, man, you, man, I need you to run the right route. And people criticize Dan Marino for that.
Ceci says he would point at him. That's during the game, after an incompletion. It would be it was a miscommunication. It would be very clear. Dan Marino at the time, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever, pointing at whomever, whether it was Duper or an undrafted free agent. You screwed up. I'm going to let the whole world know you screwed up.
And as a player or a professional athlete, you can't have thick skin like that. If Aaron Rodgers says, as I'm a wide receiver, that lackluster, I'm going to make sure he wasn't talking about me. I'm going to make sure that my tempo matches the best player in the organization. And these guys, man, are working day to day. Man, we can't afford to have no bad day as no backup wide receiver. Like, that's crazy. Like, they can bring somebody in and take your job at the end of the day. So, Aaron Rodgers, yes, he's going to get criticized no matter what. But the crime would have been if he had saw that type of behavior and not said anything. Because Aaron is about trying to win and trying to win a championship. And Aaron right now also, because they got rid of his coaches, he's taking more responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm trying to win right now, because if we don't win, you know who they're going to blame? They're not going to blame those guys who have some other job outside of pro football. They're going to blame that guy right there, number 12.
It got rid of his coaches and probably got rid of the guy that I would imagine.
His best friend.
And the leader in the wide receiver room.
Yes.
I bet Jordy was the guy who last year, if the wide receivers were having a bad day, Jordy would be the first one to speak up.
They asked Jordy to take a pay cut.
Yeah. Right. And so, that guy's gone as well. So go ahead, Jenna.
So we're talking about this from Aaron Rodgers' perspective. Talk about it from the receiver's perspective. If you're a young receiver and you hear your quarterback call you out, how do you respond to something like that, see?
Yeah, I don't care nothing about your perspective. Like, we set the tempo around here. We the one have built the program. Yes, I've done that to many wide receivers. They know. My ex-teammates, they know. I'll call them out in a minute. I don't care nothing about their feelings. Man, we got a job to do. There is a certain amount of effort that it takes to do this job. Everyone in the league has the same amount of time. You cannot waste time on the practice field. That is where you work on your craft. That is where you should put the high expectations. You know the reason why? Because they're not going to get in the game. Aaron understands that. You got 12 wide receivers. You got 4 preseason games. You're trying to develop 5 or 6 of these guys and get your top flight guys ready for the season? No, you don't have time for that. That is their game. Aaron is right in what he's doing.
And there was one quote specifically there that I knew C would touch on that would strike him, which was, this is a professional, not a personal environment. It is different when you're hanging out with your friends. We are at work. And one of my favorite Cris Carter stories is being with you. We'd only known each other maybe 3 to 6 months at this point in time. Super Bowl a couple years ago in Houston, where I had lived before. And we're walking around, and everybody knows Cris. And I said to him, I was like, any of your former teammates here? And Cris was like, yeah. I'm a lot more popular with some other guys, though, than I am my teammates. And it was because of things like this. Like, those guys, I think almost all of them had respect for you, but weren't always buddy-buddy because of the tough conversations. Like, you were a lot more friendly with some of the other gold jacket guys and some of the guys that you competed against than necessarily. I know you had great friends on the Vikings, Jake Reed and others, but, right, that's a fair point, that you had to conduct yourself in a way that maybe was going to ruffle some feathers.
And Denny Green empowered me when he could see that I was saying the types of things that because what it did was it made Denny's voice louder.
Sure.
And then some other guys on the team at their positions, they realized that Denny was trying to develop leaders, and Denny empowered us to be able to do things like that. So not only did it help me, but how it helped the other leaders on the team, because we had the backing of the coach.
All right, moving on. Boy, things are getting hot in Cleveland. Here's the story for you, see. As the team gets ready for their second preseason game against the Bills, Baker Mayfield has been at the center of some drama this week. The Browns coordinators got testy in practice yesterday over this. One Browns reporter tweeted this out. Todd Haley, upset with the defense getting too close to Baker Mayfield, said, quote, Good teams don't touch the bleeping quarterback, to which Gregg Williams responded, well, block him then. All right, see, is this a big deal? Which side are you on here?
No, it's not. I don't have to be on the side. This is NFL football. A lot of times now, and because Cleveland, they have the microphones, they have the cameras there. And, man, I'm just going to tell you, in recent weeks, I haven't talked about a team that won one game
in 2 years
more than I've talked about the Browns. So I guess that's a positive thing. But these are normal things in a practice. The defense, they have an agenda. They have a call sheet. They have the defense that they're going to run, and they're going to run blitzes. The offense, they have a call sheet, the plays, the protections, and all those protections call for a guy to block almost every guy on the defense. When people don't do their job, coaches yell at players. Both of these coaches are right. You are not going to be a good team by hitting your quarterback in practice. Every team that knows this, from high school, where we put them in jerseys, they're in jerseys for a reason. That guy is value to the team. It can't be replaced, and you have to learn, as a young football team like Cleveland, you have to learn how to practice.
Right.
All right? And I don't care if Baker's a rookie.
What
I don't
does
care
that mean, learn how to practice?
Well, because of the game has changed, you have to learn how to practice in shorts. You have to learn how to be competitive but not combative. You have to learn how to get guys better and learn how to knock guys down and be able to help guys up and not worry about how it looks, because there's certain things you just cannot do on the football field in practice that because you're trying to get ready for the game. Like, you don't take certain angles. Once you have a lineman, if I drive you all the way back, if I'm up by your neck, I take my hand down and put it more on your breastplate, all right? If I see a guy stumbling, an offensive lineman, I don't shove him and keep shoving him back into the quarterback. These are things, once you get into the game, all these things you're going to do. But Cleveland has a lot of players that are not proven. And Gregg Williams is right. Get after the quarterback. That's the only way the Browns are going to win. And Todd Haley is right. Good teams do not and have the discipline to be able to hit their quarterback in practice.
Listen, you want us to not talk about the Browns anymore? Have Baker Mayfield get hurt. Like the Browns, Tyrod Taylor's going to be the starter. It's an interesting team. They can win a few more games. The reason the Browns are a marquee team, hard knocks aside, is because they not only had the #1 pick, but it's a #1 pick that's a quarterback that's an interesting prospect. That is why all teams have to protect their quarterback. The Browns have as much invested in theirs as any team in the league. And I get why it's tough for defensive players, because you can argue the #1 goal of any football game as a defensive player, front seven guy, knock the opposing team's quarterback out of the game. Not injure him at long, knock him out of the game. And the #1 goal for every football team at practice leading up to the game is make sure our quarterback does not get knocked out of the game.
Yes.
So it's competing interest there. But it's also, and this is one of the reasons the Browns are at least intriguing to me, is two very fiery personalities at coordinator that have always coached with something of a chip on their shoulder, because unlike a lot of coordinators and coaches in this league, they don't have some deep football background. Todd Haley caught flack in Kansas City when he was the head coach because he played golf in college instead of playing football. His dad was a scout, but he never played football. Gregg Williams played quarterback at Truman State, where he completed 40 passes in 3 years. And that's his football background. And then he was a high school coach. Like, people want to know how Gregg Williams got this edge. He was a high school coach in Belton, Missouri, about 40 minutes from where I'm from. Like, small-town Missouri high school coach in his mid-20s who then became an NFL head coach. He's always going to be, you talk about edge players, he's going to be an edge coach. And we've seen that throughout his career. Like, so these guys are going, this is a combustible coach's room, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But we just have a magnifying glass on them, so we're going to see it.
This is happening around half the NFL teams, though. You know, like, you're going to have these type of debates, all right? The defensive people are trying to get to the quarterback, and, man, Todd Haley is responsible for Baker Mayfield. A lot of times, though, what you have is young players, they don't know how to get to the quarterback and haven't been proven, so they want to be able to show the coach, and they end up touching the quarterback by touching him on the hand. So on the video, the coach is like, oh, 59 sacked him, or 59 would have gotten to him, compared to a veteran player who could have peeled off, and the coach would have known and understood that he would have gotten there.
Just quickly, does Hugh Jackson have what it takes to make sure this doesn't boil over into anything other than just preseason?
I don't know. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but Hugh Jackson is clearly a very smart offensive mind, and there are clearly things he does behind the scenes to give him a greater job security than most coaches in this league. But I can't look at a coach who's 1-31 and say, if this is a more than usual combustible locker room, which I'm not saying necessarily is, but if it is, that Hugh Jackson's the right guy for it.
This is the thing. You don't know until you see him in the game. Hugh Jackson has put teams on the field that have lost 4 or 5 games a year. Now, you can attribute that to the coach. You can attribute that to the players and everything. The way the organization has been run has been a disaster. So it's hard to blame it on the coach. When you're drafting bad players, it's hard to develop players. So it's been a major screw up. I do have confidence in Gregg Williams because the defense has kind of led this team the last couple years. They got better personnel compared to this year. Todd Haley got a lot of confidence in him. This would be a story if it was Todd